Hello everyone. I hope you're doing good. In fact, I'm doing great. So taking this discussion ahead with regard to CA final financial reporting November 2020 paper discussion. You might have already seen part 1 and part 2, which discusses the solution to question number 1 and question number 2 of our examination paper. So in this video, we're going to see solution to question number 3. So without wasting much time, come let's get started. I share the screen, which takes us to the question paper. Yes, here we have. Let me bring myself down. Yes, because I'm very much down to earth. You guys see. Okay, PGH, this is the one. We're done with one, two. Come on, guys. Let's go down, 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 down. Yes, here we have third one. Yes, question number 3. It's an 8 marker. From the face of it, it looks like an Ind AS 116 leases wala question because they've given very clearly seller and lessee. For those of us who actually find it difficult to identify who's lessor and who's lessee, come on, let's read this. Yeah. So Venus Limited, seller come lessee. When they've told seller and lessee, that signifies that Venus Limited has sold the asset to the buyer and taken it back on lease. So this is sale come lease back. Now the question is this a sale come lease back with respect to financial lease or operating lease? If you actually are from an era of students who read accounting standards in their CA Inter or CA IPCC, you might be remembering the fact that finance lease and operating lease are two distinctive treatments. You get that? So you always treated finance lease as something else and operating lease as something else. However, in the era of Ind AS, it doesn't really matter whether it is finance lease or operating lease. With respect to lease back transactions, even with regard to this, we'd have to recognize the right to use the asset. Yeah, RTUA, right to use the asset. It has to be recognized. So this becomes as complicated or as lengthy as finance lease only under accounting standard. So that's the beauty of Ind AS. So the current understanding of this question is Venus has sold it to Mars. So Venus is the seller, Mars is the buyer. Venus has taken the asset back on lease from Mars Limited. We have to read it further to understand whether it is operating or financing. Yeah. So for cash of rupees 28 lakhs. So what exactly is this 28 lakhs? So 28 lakhs. 28 lakhs is our selling price. You get that? 28 lakhs is selling price. Let me just start inputting the data here. So we're doing solution to question number 3. Yeah, second one is done. Question number 3A. Question number 3A. Ind AS 116. This is just for your understanding. You need not write this in the exam as to whether it is leases or some other standard. Yeah. So we have Venus Limited and we have Mars Limited. Yes. Venus Limited is the seller. Come lessee. And Mars Limited is the buyer. Come lessor. The concept is pretty simple. I'm not just discussing the answer here. I'm discussing the concept around this also, because a lot of them who have not written this exam number 20 or people who are preparing for upcoming exams don't know the standard Ind AS 116. Even if they watch this video, it should be of some help to them. So I'm not doing a video which will teach only people who actually know it. You get that? So that's the intention. That's my audience. So I would be teaching a concept little around the problem also. So Venus Limited is the owner of the asset and it has sold. Mars Limited has purchased it, and after buying it, Mars Limited doesn't know what to do with the asset. So they've given the same asset back on lease to Venus Limited. So technically, Venus Limited has sold it and taken it back on lease. So there is no change in the position. So the entire asset position is there with Venus Limited. So this is actually something like a financial agreement. It's technically like taking loan from taking loan from Mars Limited. But however, they're not going to call this loan. They're going to call this lease. You get that? So if this is a finance lease, then the entire asset will be written, the entire asset will be used. If this is an operating lease, meaning the lease term will not completely cover the useful life of the asset, or the lease payments will not substantially cover the entire life of the asset, or there is no probability of Venus Limited taking over the asset at the end of the lease. If this is such kind of a transaction, then Venus has actually sold part of the asset to Mars, has actually sold some part of the asset to Mars, and only part of the asset is retained by them. So that part what is sold, against that profit has to be recognized, and that part what is retained, you would have to recognize it not as an asset anymore, because Venus doesn't own that asset. It has sold it, taken it back on lease. So against that asset, we would have to recognize RTU, right to use the asset. I don't have the ownership of the asset, but because of the lease, Venus Limited has the right to use such asset. So we have to recognize RTU, right to use the asset. Come on, let's go ahead and see the further data. So first information is selling price is 28 lakh. Okay. Selling price. Who has sold it to whom? Venus has sold it to Mars. How much? 28 lakh. Beautiful, boss. Let's go ahead. Immediately before the transaction, the building is carried at a cost of 13 lakh. So what exactly is the cost of the asset? 13 lakh. So cost, meaning the book value. Have they told book value? Cost. We'll take it as cost. Cost is how much? 13 lakh. This will be of no use. It will not be considered anywhere. But okay, fine. Let's write this. Yeah, 13 lakh. I mean, in the sake of transfer, this will not be considered anywhere. But when you are trying to de-recognize the asset for sale, the credit part should be with regard to 13 lakhs only. When you say the proportion that is transferred. Yeah. At the same time, seller lessee enters into a contract with buyer lessee to, that's it. This is like the say lease back part. This is the lease back part that they mentioned. Right to use the asset, whatever is selling, it's been transferred. So for how long? For 20 years. Lease term is 20 years. So what exactly is lease term? 20 years. That I would put here. Or I can write it a little below. Lease term 20 years. Okay. Next, what else do you have? With annual payments of 2 lakh payable at the end of each year. So lease rentals. Lease rentals. Who will pay lease rentals to whom? Who's taking the asset on lease? Who's the person who's receiving the asset? He is calling the asset on lease. Venus Limited. So Venus Limited has to pay these lease rentals to Mars Limited. In short, when I told you sale and lease back, I being Venus, you being Mars, I've given you the asset and taken the asset. I've sold you the asset and taken it back from you for lease. So I'm paying you lease rentals. You get that? In short, I told you sale and lease back is nothing but taking loan. I've taken loan from you. You are Mars. I am Venus. So I have to pay you. What do I have to pay you? Lease rentals. You get that? So lease rentals is how much? 2 lakh per year. So how many years do I have to pay? I would have to pay 2 lakh rupees per year for 20 years. For 20 years, I would have to pay 2 lakhs each. Let's go ahead in the question at the end of each year, end of the each year. The terms and conditions of the transactions are such that transfer of the building by seller lessee satisfies the requirements for determining the when a performance obligation is satisfied in accordance with Ind AS. Okay, that's reference to Ind AS 115. This entire statement would not have any impact on our answer. Just note that. Going ahead, the fair value of the building at the date of sale is 25. This is important, guys. So note this point. This will change the course of our answer. What is the fair value of the asset? 25 lakhs. Whenever they give fair value as 25 lakhs, meaning in an, I would say, unrelated market, both of us not being related, me not having any obligation to each other, both are being knowledgeable. The hand, what to say, arm's length price, I should have sold the asset to you for 25 lakhs. You should have bought the asset from me for 25 lakhs. That is a fair price. But I sold the asset to you at 28 lakhs. Look at this. Selling price is 28 lakhs. But what is the fair value? Fair value. Fair value is 25 lakh. So I have sold an asset which should have been sold for 25 at rupees 28. You paid me 3 lakhs more. Are you mad to pay me 3 lakhs more? This is not sale of business. It can't be goodwill that you paid me extra. So 3 lakhs, what you paid extra is actually you gave it to me for no reason. So it is like loan. I would have to give it back to you. Very important. Note this. Whenever the fair value of that asset is given, the selling price will be ignored. So I've received money over and above my over and above my fair value. So any extent of money received over and above fair value towards selling price is like loan taken. So I am Venus Limited. I've sold the asset to you. When I sell the asset to you, the fair value of the asset is 25, but I've received 28. That 3 lakh extra what I've received is loan taken by Mars Limited, loan taken by Venus Limited, loan taken by Venus Limited. From whom? Mars Limited. So this loan has to be repaid. So when Venus Limited repays to Mars Limited, that 2 lakh every year they repay, no? In the 2 lakh, 3 lakh rupees will be towards the loan taken. 3 lakh rupees will be towards the loan taken. The balance will be towards the, what do you say, the lease rental. So this 2 lakh per year is there, isn't it? This 2 lakh per year for 20 years. I would write 2 lakh, 2 lakh, 2 lakh for 20 years. Write that interest rate. We have not read the question completely. After I read that interest rate, discount this future payments, discount this 2 lakh annual future payments to one date, current date. That is my future liability. I would have to pay 2 lakh at the end of every year. What is the present liability? I would find the discounted value of such liability. Out of that liability, whatever I get, 3 lakh rupees is completely towards the finance liability. That is the loan taken. Only the balance, whatever is there, is towards the lease rental. That balance after deducting 3 lakh, that is my RTU, right to use the asset. Balance is finance, pure finance liability. You get that? What I'll repeat whatever I'm trying to tell. 25 lakhs is the fair value, 28 lakhs is the selling price. So 3 lakh, whatever is collected in excess, whatever is collected in excess by Venus Limited is loan taken. Is loan taken. And with regard to this future payments, 2 lakh, whatever we're paying annually, in that we will include repayment of this loan of 3 lakh. So what do we do? 2 lakh at the agreed rate given, at the market rate given, we'll discount it to find the present value of future payments to be made by Venus Limited. Out of that, 3 lakh it is repayment of loan. Balance is the right to use the asset. I hope that's clear. Come on, let's write whatever I just discussed. So 25 lakh and 28 lakh is there. So there is loan taken. Three lakh. How did I arrive at 3 lakh? How did I arrive at 3 lakh? Excess of selling price over fair value. Let me wrap text here with regard to this one. Okay, so what I did is 28 lakh minus 25 lakh, that 3 lakh. You get that? Okay. Next, so we have the fair value. Selling price, fair value is to be considered as a selling price. 25 lakh is the price. And then the cost is 13 lakh. So there is one more item that needs to be recognized here. Profit. Profit on sale of entire asset is how much? 25 lakh is the fair value. Cost is 13 lakhs. So technically our profit is 12 lakhs. Do you agree with me? 12 lakh. That is excess of fair value over cost. Let me wrap this text as well. Yeah. Okay. These two are important calculations that we just did. Yeah. Note them. They are going to be helpful in your future answer computation. Oh, this looks perfect. Okay. Let it be this way. Okay. Come on. Let's read the question further. Initial direct costs, if any, are to be ignored. Thank you. Interest rate implicit is 12%. I told no, this has to be discounted. Interest rate, implicit interest rate is how much? 12% per annum. Obviously per annum. Per annum. So I would have to write year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, like that for 20 years. Write 2 lakh, 2 lakh, 2 lakh, 2 lakh. Discounting factor, multiply to find the annual factor. Or you can do PVAF, present value annual factor. Take your calculator, do 1 divided by 1.12, go on doing equals for 20 years, and then press on grand total thing. You get one number multiplied by 2 lakh, you will get the present value. Yeah. Let us see if it is required for us to do. 12 lakh, which is readily determinable by seller lease. Present, they've already given it. 14 lakh 94,000. If they wouldn't have given, you would have done it. I would still show you how to do this. But have to just take your calculator, 1 divided by 1.12, and do it as equals for first year. You would get something, and go on doing equals for second, third, fourth, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. If I do it for 20 years, we'll get the grand total, and then that whatever the grand total is there, that if you multiply by 2 lakh, you'll get 14 lakh 94,000. My calculator didn't have the grand total button. I noticed it late. I don't want to waste time any further, but it's okay. Come on. So let's go ahead. Write this present value of payments. What exact payment is this? Annual payments. Don't waste time in the examination computing it if it's already given in the question. If it is not given, you would have to compute. I agree. But when it is given, it's wise enough not to waste time doing it. How much is it? 14 lakh 94,000. 14 lakh 94,000. Yeah, 14 lakh 94,000 is the money that is paid by Venus Limited to Mars Limited. You get that? I'll repeat the entire gist, concentrate. Venus transfers the asset to Mars. Venus transfers the asset to Mars, whose cost is 13 lakh, selling price is 28 lakh, fair value is 25 lakh. So Mars pays Venus 28 lakh. Out of that, Venus has to repay 2 lakh every year, 2 lakh every year for 20 years. Did you understand? So Venus repays 14 lakh 94,000 right now. Repays how much? 14 lakh 94,000. Now, we would have to identify the profit on this sale. We would have to identify how much is the asset sold, how much is the right to use the asset retained by Venus Limited. Venus Limited does not transfer the entire asset. The reason is the cost of the asset is 13. Ignore that. The fair value is 25, which is given and then taken back on lease. But out of the 25 lakh worth asset which is taken back on lease by Venus Limited, only 14 lakh 94,000 is a lease payment. So some asset is actually being transferred by Venus Limited to Mars Limited. That is a literal sale. That part of the asset is not taken on lease back by whom? Back by Venus Limited. So we'd have to account. Before I go further, I told you this part previously. Out of this present value of annual payments, I told some money is towards repayment of loan taken. This loan taken is there, no? I told you some money is towards this loan taken 3 lakh. Yeah, and that money has to be shown separately. We have to do that. Oh. This looks complete now. So out of this 14 lakh 94,000, there are two parts. There are two parts. One, towards the loan taken is 3 lakhs, and balance is towards the repayment of what is it, lease rentals. Okay, towards loan taken, how much? 3 lakh. This 3 lakh comes from here. It comes from here. And then what is it? Towards lease rentals. How much is towards lease rentals? Towards lease rentals, it is 14 lakh 94,000 minus 3 lakh. Only balance is towards the payment. So I'll do 14 lakh 94,000 minus 3 lakh. So that comes to 11 lakh 94,000. So 11 lakh 94,000 is paid towards the lease rentals, and 3 lakh is paid towards the total, I would say, the loan taken initially. So this is a very important aspect that has to be understood. And this is the computation that I just did. Note this part because it is going to become critical. I'll put a box to this also, which I computed. Perfect. So whatever is there in the box is what I've computed. The other things is what they've already given to us in the question. Come on. So let us go ahead now and then see from the question as to what exactly do they want us. Buyer lesser classifies the lease as it's an operating lease. It's an operating lease. No problem. How should the said transaction be accounted in the books of Venus Limited? Venus Limited is in whose books we are accounting. Seller lessee. So he has sold the asset, not complete asset. He's taken the asset back on lease, not the complete asset. So how much sale has to be recognized and how much profit on sale has to be recognized? How much of the asset is to be recognized as right to use, that is received backwards on lease, and how much is the finance liability? So that is the accounting required. You get that? So one small calculation left out. Yeah, once we do that, we are good enough to go ahead with the solution to this. When you say journal entry, accounting entry for this question. Yeah, fair value. Okay, how much exactly is the fair value of the asset? It's 25 lakh. Just, yeah, so the entire accounting has to happen for 25 lakh rupees. And against this asset of 25 lakh rupees, which is sold, fair value of the asset, there are two calculations. One is right to use the asset. Right to use the asset refers to that portion of the asset which is given by Venus Limited to Mars Limited by sale and taken back on lease. Taken back on lease by Venus Limited. So I'll tell here, this is asset sold is that part of the asset which is taken back on lease. So how much of the asset is taken back on lease? How much of the asset is taken back on lease? The asset that is taken back on lease is right to use the asset. I told you, towards the lease rentals, 11 lakh 94,000, whatever you're paying. If you're paying so much, so that portion of the asset is what you've taken on lease. So I'll write here is equal to 11 lakh 94,000. You get that? So out of 25 lakh worth asset, 11 lakh 94,000 worth asset is something that you've taken back on lease. So how much is sold or asset transferred? Asset transferred. It is not like retransferred amount. Transferred once for all over. How much is that? That is to the extent of balance. Balance is how much? I would do 25 lakh minus 11 lakh 94,000. So this is what I would have to do. What is the portion of that asset which is sold? The portion of the asset that is sold, portion of the asset that is sold is 25 lakhs is the fair value of the asset. Out of that, you've taken 11 lakh 94,000 back on lease. So portion of the asset that is transferred completely is 13 lakh 6,000. So this is a very important aspect. So this 11 lakh 94 and 13 lakh 6 is the split of this fair value of 25 lakh. So this 25 lakhs of fair value worth asset transferred can be categorized into two parts. 11 lakh 94 which is taken back on lease and 13 lakh 6,000 which is permanently transferred. Now, to the extent of fair value of 25 lakh which is sold, we have made profit of how much? 12 lakh. See, I'm basically using this 3 lakh here. 28 lakh selling price mein I removed 3 lakh. That gave me 25. That 25 I'm splitting into two parts. Part which is taken back on lease, part which is not taken on lease. So I'm using this box, this box in combination with this 3 lakh and then 1 lakh 94 to finally arrive at this. Next, I'm using the second box now. 12 lakh rupees the profit. Now 12 lakh is the profit on the entire asset. See, I use the same word here. Profit on sale of entire asset. So I'll write here profit. Okay. Profit. How much is profit? 12 lakh. So profit is 12 lakh on the sale of entire asset. But have we transferred the entire asset is my question. We haven't transferred the entire asset. Have we transferred the entire asset? We haven't transferred the entire asset. So this also needs to be categorized into two portions now. One, with regard to assets sold. So for 25 lakhs, it is 12 lakhs. For 25 lakhs worth assets sold, profit is 12 lakhs. So how much of it is for the assets sold? You get that? Okay, fine. I'll do it exactly this way. Yeah, and I'll copy paste this part. Yeah, against the asset which is taken back on lease. Yeah, against the asset taken back on lease. Against okay, this asset against taken back on lease, it is unrealized because that asset is with us only, no, right? Asset taken back on lease. Yeah, asset transferred. This is realized profit. Yeah. So we would have to just compute this. It is going to become a very simple math calculation like ratio proportions. So it is 12 lakh for 25 lakh. How much is it for 11 lakh 94,000? As sweet and simple as that. So how do I do it? I would do it like 20. Okay, it is 11 lakh 94 multiplied by 12 lakh divided by 25 lakh. So I'll do 11 lakh 94,000 multiplied by 12 lakh whole divided by what? 25 lakh. However, in order to compute for this part, what would I do? I would have to take 13 lakh 6,000. It is simple. It is very simple. It is like doing, if it is this much for this much, how much for that, how much for this much. Like itne mein itna, to itne mein kitna. Ishtaki ishtadre, ashtaki ishtu. Intaki inta ite, intaki enta. So it's like this ratio proportion. 25 lakh is to 12 lakh. 11 lakh 94,000 is to how much? Yeah, how much is this? So this I'll tell you. I would have to take 11 lakh 94,000 multiplied by 12 lakh divided by 25 lakh. That's it. Gives me 5 lakh 73,120. Then how about here? It is 13 lakh 6,000 multiplied by 12 lakh divided by 25 lakh. That gives me 6 lakh 26,082. Now, this portion, whatever is the realized portion, it has to be accounted. Unrealized portion, definitely it is not to be accounted. Not to be accounted. And this calculation is actually not required. Not required. Not required. Yeah, not required. So I marked it in red. So only this portion is required. Now I have everything that I need for accounting this transaction. Yeah, let me show it to you. Accounting for transfer of asset and lease back. Firstly, follow the money. You're getting the money. Okay, this is in the books of whom? In the books of, we're doing it in the books of Venus. They've asked us in the books of Venus. In the books of Venus Limited. Venus Limited. Yeah, in the books of Venus Limited. Venus Limited is receiving cash or paying cash? Venus Limited is receiving cash. You have to write cash or bank account debit. Yes. To what extent? How much of cash is required? Received. Selling price received. So what is the selling price of the asset received? 28 lakh. Okay, boss. I'll write here is equal to 28 lakhs. That is cash received. We have to agree. We cannot argue on that part. Selling price. Yeah. Whenever you sold this asset, you basically receive 28 lakhs. Against this, you basically transfer the asset. So as the asset is getting transferred. So I will write here to asset, whatever name. I'm given the name of the asset. So it's a building. So I'll write building. Building account. So building is getting transferred. Yeah. So what is the cost of the building? Now this 13 lakh worth building, whatever is there in your book, doesn't exist anymore. So I would have to credit 13 lakh because the asset is getting transferred. So I'll write here 13. No. I'll tab equals and I'll select that 13 lakhs. Yeah. You can say, sir, only portion of the asset is given. Yeah. This 13 lakh cost worth building is being transferred and taken back on lease. So, sir, can I write only that portion what is transferred, asset sold or transferred? No, you can't. The reason is whatever is held back with you, it will no more be called as an asset. It will be called as right to use the asset. It is no more be called as building. It will be called as RTUA, right to use the asset in your balance sheet. Yeah. So 13 lakh. So what is this 13 lakh? 13 lakh is cost. Cost of the asset. Now, 28 lakh worth asset. 28 lakh is the selling price. 13 lakh is the asset. Sir, can you recognize 12 lakh profit? No, that's what I told. No, entire profit of 12 lakh cannot be recognized. Realized profit is only 6 lakh 26,880. You can recognize only 6 lakh 26,880. Okay, so what will be the profit entry? We'll write to revenue, or you can write P&L. You can write P&L account, or I can write revenue also. Yeah, revenue from other income. Or I'll write it as other income. Profit. How much is this? This is realized profits, guys. How much? How much is realized? 6,26,880. Yeah, profits with respect to asset. Profit with respect to asset transfer. Yeah, I hope this is becoming clear so far and has no confusion. Now, after you give this asset, you're taking the asset back on lease. So when you take the asset back on lease, you would have asset to be recognized. That will not be recognized as asset. It will be recognized as right to use the asset. I mentioned it to you that this right to use the asset has to be recognized at what price. That has to be identified. Let us keep that as balancing figure. I'll however show you the reasoning for that part as well. Or I'll show it to you right now as to how do we get this. See, the asset that is retained is basically 11 lakh 94,000. Am I right? Out of this 11 lakh 94,000, against that, there is unrealized profit of 5 lakh 73. So 11 lakh 94 minus 5 lakh 73 is our right to use the asset. So I'll do it. Have a look. 11 lakh 94,000 minus 5 lakh 73,120 gives us 6 lakh 20,880. So 6 lakh 20,880. Can you see it? No, I don't think you can. Okay, 6 lakh 20,880. 6 lakh 20,880 is the right to use the asset. So I'll write here. This is equal to 11 lakh 94,000 minus 5 lakh 73 120. 6 lakh 20,880. So how did I get this? I got this as what to say proportion of proportionate fair value minus proportionate profit. You subtract them, you get it. Or if I would have to type it more neatly, where do I type? I'll write 11 lakh. Okay, I'll continue here itself. That is 11 lakh 94,000 minus 5 lakh 73,120. That would give us so much. And ultimately, you given the asset, you took it back. Because you took it back, you recognize the right to use the asset. Now against this, you would have to make payment, isn't it? So to finance liability. How much is the finance liability? How much is it that you should pay? You would have to pay 14 lakh 94,000. Yeah, that 14 lakh 94,000 is split as 3 lakh and 11 lakh 94. 3 lakh towards the loan and 11 lakh 94 towards the lease rental. But total financial liability is how much? 11 lakh 94. So 11 lakh 94 is what you would have to pay. The present value of payment. Sorry, 14 lakh 94 is what you would have to pay. Present value. Now, after I do this, the totals has to match. Only if the totals match, the entry is correct. Okay. Let us check if the totals do match here. Yeah, we got it. See, let's check if the total of debits and credits match. Yes, 34 lakh 2880. That is the reason I told instead of computing this part right to use the asset as 6 lakh 2880, I showed you the calculation that it can be found as proportionate fair value minus proportionate profit. Instead of doing this computation, you have this, you have these three, you can find this as balancing figure. That's the only thing that I was about to tell. So you can either find it as balancing figure, but or identify the value rightly. I told you how to account for both. I showed you the reasoning. I didn't just tell you this. No, you just put it like this. Huh? So this is it with respect to the question on in day 16. We did accounting from the perspective of Venus Limited, the accounting entry for the sake of selling the asset and taking it back on operating. Come on. So let us now go to the next question. That is question number 3B. Question number 3B. Yeah. Pacific Ocean Railway Limited has three cash generating units. The moment you use the word cash generating units, what comes to your mind? Ind AS 36. That is impairment. Namely, train, railway station, and railway tracks. Perfect. The carrying amounts of which, as on 31st of March 2020, is given. So they've given individual CGUs carrying amounts and remaining useful life. Okay, we are not going to depreciate them. They've given useful life. This can actually become little tricky. Yeah, we'd have to figure out very closely as to why have they given the remaining useful lives. A very important part is, have a look, 10 and 20. It is not equal. Is it equal? It is not equal. If the remaining useful lives were equal, then this would have been easy case. Because their remaining useful lives are not equal, we would have to equate to identify the weights, to identify the impairment. Yeah, let's however not conclude. I think let's read the question further. So Pacific Ocean Railway Limited also has two corporate assets. Corporate assets cannot be separately impaired. We'd have to allocate those corporate assets to CGUs. After we allocate the corporate assets to CGUs, we'd have to find the revised carrying amount of each CGU. Then compare the revised carrying amount of each CGU with its net realizable value. Identify the impairment loss. And such impairment loss cannot be straightaway deducted from CGU, because such impairment loss, what you arrive, has to be proportionately allocated between the corporate asset and the CGU, and deduct that proportionate impairment loss from each CGU and each corporate asset. You get that? I'll repeat what I just told. What I was telling is, whenever there are corporate assets cannot be separately impaired. You would have to allocate the corporate assets to CGUs. How do you allocate? Based on the weights. Based on the weights. Here, because the remaining useful life is not equal, you would have to take carrying amount multiplied by remaining useful life to identify the weights. In that proportion, we allocate the corporate assets. Once we allocate the corporate assets to CGUs, CGUs carrying amounts will change. Such revised carrying amounts, after including the corporate asset portion, we will compare that revised carrying amount with the net realizable value. If net realizable value is lesser than the carrying amount, then we would have to recognize impairment loss. Such impairment loss cannot be straightaway deducted from CGU portion, because such impairment loss is for the CGU in association with corporate asset. So for every impairment loss ascertained, we have to categorize it into two. One, how much of it belongs to the CGU in specific, how much of it belongs to the corporate asset. We need to bifurcate it. That after bifurcation, we need to identify each individual asset, that is CGU and corporate assets impairment loss, deduct it. Yeah, this is first level of impairment loss calculation. Once we do that, after we do this individual asset impairment, find the after impairment value of the asset, that is carrying amount minus impairment loss of all the CGUs and corporate assets. Total them. Total them. Find the total carrying value of all the assets. Compare it with the total net realizable value for the organization as a whole. Check if net realizable value is lesser than the carrying amount. If it is there, that is a second level of impairment loss that we need to recognize. You get that? So this is the entire concept of Ind AS 36 in a gist. I'm not doing a separate video in Ind AS 36. That's however done. But however, I'm revising the entire Ind AS 36 before starting this problem. So I'm reiterating this to you. This, you might ask, why is it that the video is going for an hour? You would have to remember that I'm not just solving the answer. I'm giving the entire concept revolving around this Ind AS. So this is not a mere solution discussion video. This is a detailed discussion of the solution along with the entire concept revolving around that standard. Let's go ahead. So corporate assets are to land and building. Okay, carrying amount 1,800 and 600. We'd have to allocate this to CGUs. What is it told? The carrying amount of land can be allocated. Yes, bro, I wanted this statement from you. Yeah, they've told that it can be allocated. So we'll allocate it on reasonable basis. That is pro rata. Yep. And building 600 cannot be allocated. Notice this. They've given very clear, beautifully given here. Cannot be allocated. I'll mark it in red. Cannot be allocated. So this should not be allocated. Now, a lot of us, what we do, okay, fine, land building, we will not even read the entire statement and then jump in and then allocate. Don't do that. They mentioned very clearly that building cannot be allocated on reasonable basis. Reasonable basis. So we will not proportionately allocate building to CGUs to find impairment. Buildings will be only considered in the total when we find the second level of impairment loss. Yeah, important point. Note this. And they've given the recoverable amounts. Yeah, that is NRV. However, perfect. Perfect. Calculate the impairment loss, if any, ignore decimals. So we'll just round it off to the nearest number and then go ahead. Perfect. Very easy question. But there were a couple of places where you could have gone wrong. One here. And second, I've seen, in spite of telling it many times in the class, I've seen students missing out on second level of impairment check. They do the first level and then the total verification they forget. Or many of them forget this part that the remaining useful life is different, 10 and 20. It might so happen that you might take the weights as 1500, 2250 and 3300 and then allocate. No, we have to take the weighted average. Let us do this. Solution to question number 3B. Question number 3B. Ind AS 36. What is it? Impairment. Sir, do we have to write this impairment Ind AS 36 in the heading? Not required, beta. It's just for your understanding. So we're doing in the books of Pacific Ocean Railway Limited. Pacific Ocean Railway Limited. Chalo, come on, let's start. CGU. What is the cash generating units that we have? Train, railway station. Train, railway station and railway track. Railway station. Railway tracks, sorry. Okay, boss. What do you have? Carrying amount. Which is the carrying amount for each of them? 1500, 1500. Everything is in crores, boss. I'll also do it in crores. 2250 and 3300. 3300. Let us concentrate only on this question. Yeah, don't see the alignment of the previous one. 3300. Then remaining useful life. How much? 10. Then 20. Oh, 20. 20. Yeah, now we'll find the product. Simple. This is equal to this multiplied by this. That's it. Now I'll find the total. I'll take the weights. I can take the weights to be little lesser, or we can keep it as the same thing, 1500 only. Yeah, I can take the total here. Yeah, so these are our weights. Yeah, don't forget. Now allocation of CG. Sorry, allocation of corporate asset. What is the corporate asset that we're allocating? Land. Why aren't we allocating building? Building should not be allocated because it is clearly mentioned in the question that building as an asset cannot be allocated. Cannot be allocated on reasonable basis. It is mentioned to us. Yeah. The beauty in the real life is we would have to justify, we would have to identify with our professional judgment whether it can be allocated or not. In the exam, it is pretty simple. They have given allocate, we will allocate. They will tell not allocate, we will not allocate. So that reasonable basis, that's where your professional skills comes into picture. Yeah. So what exactly is the value of the asset? The value of land is 1800. So 1800 is the value. So this 1800 has to be allocated. How do we allocate? Yeah, I'll give you the workings here. I'm expecting the you people not to know anything in prior. So everything will be taught right now. So what I'm going to do is 1800 multiplied by 15 divided by 126. That is what I'm doing, guys. So this 1800 multiplied by 15, that is 15,000 divided by 126,000. Yeah, same thing is what I'll do for these two also. Instead of 1800, instead of 15, I'll do here 45, and here I'll do 66. Proportionate allocation. Yeah, come on, let us see. Let us see how much will you get. I'll get 1800 multiplied by this divided by this. Yeah, would have to round it off. I'll do the rounding off portion little later once I do everything. 1800 multiplied by this divided by this. 1800 multiplied by 66 divided by 126. So I'd get this. So now I would have to round these off. Come on, let us do this. Excel can do it for us. See, ho gaya. Yeah. Let us now just check if this total comes down to 1800. 214, 643, 9. This comes to 1800. Perfect. Huh? We've arrived at it. Now we have the revised carrying amounts. What do we have? Revised carrying amounts. Yeah, that is including what? Corporate asset, which is LAND. Land, including the corporate asset land. How much do we get? We would have the old carrying amount of 1500 plus 214. Yeah, similarly, I do it for all the assets. We get it as 1714, 2893, and 4243. Yeah. Now we'll identify the impairment. Okay, checking for impairment. Checking identification of impairment loss or computation. Level 1. Yeah, individual asset level. Individual asset level we're trying to identify. Okay, come on, let us do it. So what do I do? Same thing. I'll paste here CGU. We got it. Now we'll copy and paste the revised carrying amounts. I can put the reference as this item. Here reference as 2893 and here the reference as 4243. Done. Now we'll have the recoverable amounts, whatever they've given to us. Recoverable amounts, whatever is given to us in the question. Check. What is the recoverable amounts given to us in the question? They're given like recoverable amount is 1800, 2700, 4200. Let's enter that. 1800, 2700, 4200. Now they have given company as a whole as 9600. This will see at level 2. Where will we see this? Level 2. Level 2 is company as a group. Now we're doing level 1, individual asset level. Now let us see if there is any impairment loss. Recoverable amounts. I'll just make it a little short form. impairment loss. Okay. Important point, impairment loss comes into picture when recoverable amount is lesser than carrying amount. Okay. Okay. Is recoverable amount lesser than carrying amount? That is the question. If the answer is yes, there is impairment loss. If no, there is no. Here, what is more? Carrying amount is only less. So is there impairment loss here? No, there is no impairment loss. However, here, see, the recoverable amount is less. So the asset is overvalued. There is, yes, there is impairment loss. Over here, again, the recoverable amount is less and carrying amount is more. So yes, there is impairment loss. Yeah, this is just explanation. Again, you need not do this in the examination. So how do we find it? Impairment loss, that excess only. Okay, guys. So here it is 0. And over here it is 2893 minus 2700. And over here it is 4243 minus 4200. You get that? So what exactly is the value of the assets now? Now we'll go to the second level. Okay, these are impairment loss. These has to be, this 193 and 43, whatever is there, has to be proportionately allocated between what do you say, land and railway station, because 193 is not completed towards railway station. So 193 portion of it is towards the corporate asset land, which we added up here 643, and the portion of it is towards the railway station. So we'd have to allocate it. Yeah. Now impairment loss allocation. Allocation. Now whom do we allocate it to? We allocate it to the CGU. Okay, wait a second. What I'll do is I'll insert a line here and wrap this text. Now what I can do is I can move this very close. Yeah, impairment loss. It has to be allocated between two of them. One is CGU, other one is corporate asset. In our case, it is land. Okay, here it's 0. So here also 0, here also 0. Now here we would have to allocate it. How much? This 193, whatever is there, belongs to two assets. One part belongs to railway station, one part belongs to land. This is completely dependent upon the value of these assets. Get that? So how do I do that? Huh. So 183 multiplied by, how much is the CGU value? CGU value is 2250 divided by, what is the total value that we got? 2893. That's it, 150. How about here? We can do 183 minus 150, or I'll do 193 is for the entire thing. I'll multiply by value of the land, that is 643, divided by 2250, 2893. That would give me 43. Yeah, 43 it is. We'll do that. Have a look, have a look, have a look. It becomes 43. Yeah, look at it becoming 43. That's it. Same thing we'd have to do for this part also. So 43 is the loss, impairment loss for railway track, including land. So what is the value of CGU? CGU value is 3300. What is the entire value? Entire value is 4243. I would get 33.33. So I can take it as 33. Here it will be 43 multiplied by 943 divided by 4243. That would be 10. So this will be 33. I will do it rounding off. Excel sheet man. 33. That's it. So now you know the bifurcation to this 183 and 43 also. Now as we are done with level 1, I'm going to do level 2. Computation of impairment loss, level 2. Level 2, that is group. Group level. I'm going to do it at what level? Group level. Now, I've seen few other people making another beautiful mistake here. What they end up doing is they do it correct till here, but when they're doing in the group level, they by mistake forget that corporate asset which is actually not allocated. That is building. Should we include it? The answer is yes, we would have to include it. Why? The answer is pretty simple. They've told asset as a whole, company as a whole. They've not told like only corporate assets which can be allocated or only cash generative units. That is not told to us. You get that? Yes, carrying amount. Yeah, what exactly is the carrying amount of these assets? We have it here 1500, 2250, and 3300. Okay, impairment loss. Which is the impairment loss against train? Zero. Train is not at all impaired. Yeah. How about this? It is 1000. It is 150, not 193. Yeah. How about this? It is 33. You get that? Okay. How much do we get? The revised amounts 1500 minus 0, 3267. Next, we'll go to corporate assets. How many corporate assets do we have? We have two corporate assets. One is land, one is building. Land. What is the value of land? 1800. That's given to us in the question. Yeah, have a look. We put 1800 here. 1800. What is the impairment loss against land? Land has been impaired in two types, in two portions. One is with regard to railway tracks, other one is with regard to railway station. 43 and 10. It is totally 53. 53 is the total impairment loss of land. Yeah, is equal to this 43 plus this 10. So together it is 50. Okay, it is 53. I'll put it as 53, guys. Rounding off me, it's taking it as round. 53. Yeah. Then tell me what will be the value of land after impairment? 1800 minus 53, it comes to 1747. Building, what is the value of building as per question? Question building 600. 600. Is there any impairment loss? No, boss. So what is the value? 600. Yeah. So company as well, what is the after impairment value? After impairment, what exactly is the value? Some. What is this? Carrying amount after impairment of individual assets. How much do we get? 9214. Now this carrying amount has to be compared with the recoverable amount for company as a whole. That is given to us here. What is the recoverable amount for company as well? 9600. Come on, let's take 9600. Okay, recoverable amount. How much is it? 9600. 9600 rupees. Now check which is more. When is it impairment? It is impairment only when recoverable amount is lesser than the carrying amount. Okay, impairment loss is 0. Why is it 0? It is 0 as recoverable amount is greater than carrying amount. Yes, by this we are done. You get that? So that's it. That's solution to our question number 3B. Question number 3B is done. Yeah. So this is how you do the answer. So you start with allocation. The places where you could have gone wrong is forgetting this remaining useful life and then forgetting the product in weights. Second thing is by mistake allocating the building also. If you have done that also correct, then you would be done here. And here you would have to note a very important point. Impairment loss has to be allocated to land and CGU separately. And here you would have to take it as a group asset and then identify the impairment loss. When you're doing it, very important to note, you would have to include building, and impairment loss has to be deducted from, for what to say, impairment loss of land has to be deducted from land. A lot of them do it till here, 193, 143, but 193 and 43 deduct here and they don't allocate it here. You would still lose marks in the exam because this is not paper called accounting or accountancy. This paper is called financial reporting. The core here is regarding to reporting part. You get that? You would have to be very clear. Come on, let us do the third part because it was an 8 marker and 6 marker, isn't it? Yeah, 2 8 markers, 16 marks done. 4 marks ke liye there's another question. Okay, small one. No, not really small. Let us read this. So 3C, we're gonna do 3C. Question number 3C. Sophia Limited has fabricated special equipment inverter panel during the financial year 18-19 as per drawing and design supplied by the customer. So we are Sophia Limited. Our customer has given a special design, special drawing, and we are manufacturing it. So when they say special, you would have to note that this product might not have an external market. I'm not telling will not, might not, as per drawing and design supplied by the customer. So we are doing it not like according to our engineering. Like the customer has told, I want it exactly in this design pattern, and we're doing a specific commodity for the customer. So this commodity is based on the customer specification. So there might be a possibility, there might be an assumption that we can make saying that that customer is our sole buyer, that product doesn't have a market other than that customer. Might be a case. Yeah, I have not completed reading the question yet. Yeah, however, due to liquidity crunch, the customer has requested the company for postponement in delivery schedule. So there is some problem with respect to liquidity. Yeah, that is not converting solid to liquid. I mean to say there is cash crunch to the customer. So customer is not willing to buy the goods from him. He's not told he'll not buy, he's told he'll buy later, postponing. Telling no is okay, telling I will get back to you pains, it hurts. Yeah, you will get to know when you search for a job. So the customer has given you an order, specific to say design and drawing. You manufactured it that way, you are ready to give it to the customer, but the customer has told the boss, I have some liquidity crunch and I will collect it from you later. He's not told no, he's told later. So this products what you manufactured, you have not yet sold. Yeah, from the sides of it, it looks like an inventory question, basically in days two. Let's see. So due to liquidity crunch, the customer has requested the company for postponement in delivery schedule and requested the company to withhold the delivery of finished goods and discontinue production of balance sheet. He's told, sir, whatever you manufactured, it's good. Further, don't manufacture. Keep it on hold. What you already manufactured, don't deliver it right now. You keep it with you, I'll buy. Whatever you not yet manufactured, don't manufacture. So when he tells not to manufacture, it gives a little panic mode. So the only thought in your mind is, what if this guy goes bankrupt and then he commits suicide? Who will buy these goods that I manufacture? That's a question. Yeah. So that is the entail of the question. Let's read further. As a result of the above, the details of the customer balances and goods held by company as work in progress. So you have started production. So certain goods which are partly manufactured, that is work in progress, is 255 lakhs. Inverter panel, these are finished goods, is 165 lakhs. And the customer has to pay you 195 lakhs. Okay. Now what has happened further? The petition for winding up against the customer has been filed during the financial year. They've not told whether you filed it or some other people who have given loan to that customer has filed. Someone has filed the petition saying that this guy is bankrupt, close his business, sell his assets, settle his money. So a winding up petition has been filed against your customer. If he's winding up, if he's dogging, if he's closing up his business, if he's shutting down his business, do you think he'll come and then buy goods from you? Definitely no. So the question here is, how do you value your inventory? How do you value this inventory of work in progress? How do you value this finished goods? Again, the savior is Ind AS 2. We have to go to Ind AS 2 only. Yeah. Okay, let me not speculate. Let's read this. You are required to comment. Oh, we are required to comment. So no computation required, guys. So this is a question where you'll only write the theory. No computation required. They only asked for comment with explanation on provision to be made for 615 lakhs. 615 lakhs. That is they've told the total if I'm not wrong. So 255 plus 165 plus 195. 615 is total of all these three. So together it is 615. They told provision for 615 including retarded finished goods. How do we do this? Pretty simple. So we'd have to see it differently. We would have to see this much separately and this much separately. Yeah. Let us go ahead. Let me write the solution. Yeah. with respect to Ind AS. Okay, I'll write Ind AS 2, which deals with inventory. Ind AS inventory. This will cover our work in progress and this will cover our finished goods. With regard to both of this, the rule is pretty simple. Yeah, value at cost or net realizable value, whichever is less. We have to value it at what price? Cost or net realizable value, whichever is less. Yeah, we have to value it at cost or net realizable, whichever is less. As sweet and simple as that. Now, in this question, the beauty is you don't know. You don't know. The information is not given as to whether these assets, these units what are manufactured, can be sold outside to someone else or not. Can you sell this specific design and drawing inventory, whatever you manufactured for that customer who's going to liquidate? Can you sell this to someone else? Is there an external market for this? Is the question. They have not given the data. So here we need to make an assumption. Two sorts of assumptions can be made. Assumption number one, there is an external market for these goods and such external market will fetch a price which is greater than cost. Second one, there is no external market for these goods, and even if it does exist, these goods will not fetch us any money more than our cost. You get that? So there are two possible assumptions in the absence of info in question. Sir, which assumption is correct? You can do either of it. Both of them are valid. Sir, but whoever institute has to give two answers to this one. They can tell if this is the assumption, this is the answer. If this is the assumption, this is the answer. They would have to give both. Sir, can we write both in the answer, both in the examination, both the alternatives? Yeah, boss, you can write. But writing one is sufficient. Yeah. In the absence of information. Okay. Assumption number one. I'm not giving you a detailed answer. I'm just telling you how exactly should be the way of thinking for this particular question. So assumption number one. Okay. External market exists for the product. What is it? Cases now. Inverter panel. For inverter panel and net realizable value is greater than cost. So this is the first assumption. So if this is the assumption that you're doing, then what is it that you do? Then recognize, continue. Okay, continue to, just a second, my phone's ringing. Continue to recognize inventory at cost. You get that? No provision required. So this is the first one. This is a very optimistic case. This is a very optimistic case. Now I'll tell you a pessimistic case. Assumption number two. What is this? External market doesn't exist. External market doesn't. So there is no person in the market who's ready to buy the product. Then what? NRV is 0. NRV of that product is 0. So what do we do? Provision for entire value of goods, that is WIP and finished goods is to be made. So there is no person in the market who's going to buy that goods from you. So if that is the case, we'd have to write the entire value of finished goods as well as work in progress to our expense P&L account and then close this. So this is with respect to work in progress and finished goods. Yeah. Now with respect to debtors, it's pretty simple. Debtors. Debtors, or what do we call trade receivables. against this trade results, you would have to do 100% provision. 100% provision. Entire amount has to be entire 100% provision has to be made, because the person has been under winding up order. So you might not receive. Later, if you receive, then proportionately you will de-recognize the provision, or you can recognize as bad debts required if you already recognized as bad debts. I'm not telling you recognize it as bad debts. I'm telling you recognize it as create 100% provision for that data. So that is with regard to this question number 3C. We'd have to write statements, guys. We'd have to write a lengthy comment. They've not asked for any computations here. We have to write a comment. You have to frame your answer like this. It goes something like this. According to Ind AS to inventory, inventory should be valued at cost or in RV, whichever is less. In the present scenario, yeah, there is no information given with regard to the resale or external market with regard to this. In the absence of specific information, it is assumed that there is external market for inverter panels and the value that will be realized will be greater than cost. So cost is the value at which the inventory has to be recognized. However, if it is so assumed that the external market does not exist and the selling price for such work in progress and finished goods is zero, then NRV would be zero, which is lesser than cost, and 100% provision has to be made for work in progress and finished goods for recognizing the loss that is going to be created for non-saleability of such goods. Full stop. Next paragraph. However, with respect to debtors, as a winding up order has been initiated and the petition has been filed against the customer, we would have to make 100% provision against the receivable from the customer. You get that? However, whenever there is later liquidity order is being passed and they tell like 50 paise in a rupee or 25 paise in a rupee will be realized. They tell that. So such amount of provision which is no longer required will be reversed and the balance will be received as what they say the receipt from our debtor. So such an answer has to be written by way of comment into our question number 3C. Which of the assumptions can you make in the exam? If I was writing the examination, I would have assumed that external market doesn't exist. Yeah. Sir, does that mean that we should always do it like this? Not necessarily. Yeah. You can go by an assumption that external market exists, or you can write both also. But I would suggest you to write just one. Yeah, I see. I will definitely understand and then give you marks. So this is solution to question number 3C. So we would have to come back and then do 4, 5, 6, which will be happening in our upcoming videos. So that's it in part 3 of solution discussion for November 2020 financial reporting paper. See you all in part 4 with solution to question number 4. Till then, ta-ta, bye-bye. Stay in the game.